This is Dr. Helen Sue, and I'm here to answer another parent question. A really sad and very serious topic, but super important. A parent asked me, how do I talk to my teenager about the fact that one of their classmates died by suicide? And they also didn't know how to support the parents. They're survivors of suicide, and they had no idea what to do. That's such a great question to help your child understand death by suicide, which is something that many of us will experience in our lifetime. And how do we keep supporting a family that's going through one of the hardest things imaginable? So it's a great question. One is try not to pass any blame or judgment. We don't know the circumstances of how things happened. Don't ask prying questions because that's not what's important right now. We want to be supportive. It's also the reason that now most professionals and media, if you'll notice, no one uses the term committed suicide anymore because commit makes it sound like someone did something bad, like commit a crime, when really they suffered and they died from a suicide, which may have been from depression or trauma or substance use. We don't know, right? So we don't want to use judgy language. We don't want to pry, or even though we want to find a reason or a fault, it's not helpful to blame, right? Our mind goes there, but don't do that and avoid that. Try to avoid cliches like, I know how you feel, because you don't. We really don't. And avoid cliches that, we're trying to make someone feel better sometimes and say things like, well, maybe they're in a better place. But that can sound really invalidating to somebody's pain and loss and shock. So what can we do? The hard thing about loss is we can't fix it, and we want to, but we can be there to support the survivors. You can talk to your young person about the fact that, wow, this is a terrible tragedy that's not fixable. You can normalize. Sometimes we all feel so bad or stuck or sad or trapped that most people will have some points in their life where we feel like, I don't want to be here. I don't think it'll ever get better. I wish I could disappear. But that when that happens, you want them to hang in there, talk to you, reach out to someone else if they don't want to talk to you, use a hotline, call a friend, a different relative, find spiritual support. We all feel hopeless sometimes, but there is a difference between I wish I wasn't here right now and I will never be happy again, right? And so it's really important sometimes to just stay long enough until we can feel better or find the right support. But we don't want to make someone feel that it's awful for them to even have the thought. I've heard parents say things to their kids, their students, like, well, you wouldn't do anything crazy like that, would you? And that's extremely judgy. And so if your child was feeling really anxious or sad, of course they're going to say, yeah, no, of course not. And they're going to say, well, I can obviously never talk to you about this. So really normalizing, this is a thing that can happen to people from all walks of life in every economic and racial group. Suicide is a worldwide problem, but there is help. So you want to talk to them about that. When you talk to survivors, whether that's the classmates that may be affected, the teachers and staff, the parents, the other parents who are sad and horrified and shocked, have patience. They may not want to talk for a while. Everyone might be in shock, or they might want to talk a lot. So allow people to have their own grieving style. Just try to say that I am here for you if you want to talk. Don't be afraid to mention their loved one who is gone. People don't just disappear after they die. You don't want to pretend that they never existed. I've heard of parents who have lost children that have felt really great when the kids' friends kept in touch. that over the years, that was really sweet. It helped them to feel that somebody else still remembered the child that they loved so much and still held them in their hearts, even as they grew. So that even someone who's gone is still valued in this community. Practical things you can do to help is to read and learn about suicide prevention, about how to support a griever. There's some really great resources and organizations, and I'll put some of those in the link. So people who have been through this, and you can offer practical advice sometimes, just helping somebody with errands, helping them find a counselor for their other kids, for themselves, taking care of little tasks. I've heard people say the nicest thing someone did was to help me write the thank you letters after a service, or help me take care of practical stuff in the house when I was just so overwhelmed with grief and in a blur. And if you're in an organization like a school, really ask and push for postvention. Not everyone knows the word postvention. We talk a lot about suicide prevention, and I don't think we do enough suicide prevention. But when we are already living with the big loss of a death by suicide, let's really talk about postvention too. And that is understanding that for every person that we lose, multiple people around them are going to feel that loss for always and have to learn how to integrate and live with it. And that does increase the risk of suicide or depression for people who are impacted. So we do worry about the friends of somebody, the classmate, even the community members of somebody who died by suicide. And we should put pressure on organizations like schools or offices, if you lose somebody in the workplace, to bring in support. And I don't just mean one-time like crisis support counseling, which most organizations are pretty good at now. I mean, are we going to really do something about wellness or improving the environment, making sure everyone knows about all kinds of resources and ways to take care of themselves to reduce the risk of us losing another community member to a death by suicide? So I'll put some resources in the links. Although I hope this is a video that you won't necessarily need. I know a lot of us have had this experience, and I know a lot of you unfortunately will experience it in your school or community. And I hope this can give you some tips about how to be a helper as everyone tries to heal together after the loss of somebody loved due to suicide. Take good care, y'all. Sign up if you'd like to follow for more mental health info, and send your questions along too.